Today, we're diving into one of the most fiercely ironic poems ever written about conflict, Stephen Crane's War is Kind. Honestly, it's a masterclass in using paradox to make a powerful point, and we're about to see exactly how he does it.
Right from the get-go, the poem hits you with a single, shocking statement, and it repeats it over and over again. It's a line that's designed to just stop you in your tracks. War is kind.
And of course, your brain immediately asks the question, but is it really? Crane spends the entire rest of the poem answering that, and spoiler alert, his answer is a definite, resounding no. Let's dig into how he builds his case.
So, who was this guy, Stephen Crane? Well, the most crucial thing you need to know is that he wasn't just writing from his imagination. He was a war reporter. He saw the cruelty of battle up close, with his own eyes. And that firsthand experience, it gave him the authority to just rip away all those romantic ideas about war and show its brutal, ugly reality.
Now, to expose this reality, Crane's #1 weapon is irony. Saying the exact opposite of what you actually mean to make a point. But in this poem, the effect isn't funny at all. It's absolutely devastating. And here, we see that technique in action right away. The speaker tells a young woman, a maiden, not to cry because war is kind. But that comfort is immediately shattered by this horrific image of her lover dying violently, throwing his hands wildly up at the sky. There is nothing kind about that picture.
So why keep repeating war is kind? Well, what Crane is doing here is brilliant. He's showing us how propaganda works. The authorities, the people in charge, they repeat these simple, comforting lies to try and cover up the ugly truth and make death seem okay. It's not supposed to be a comfort. It's a form of brainwashing.
And the speaker just keeps this pattern going. Now he's comforting a baby. He says, "Don't cry, war is kind," right as he's explaining that the baby's father tumbled in the yellow trenches.
And that imagery, it's just completely stripped of any glory. The color yellow here isn't just a color, it's meant to make you think of sickness, cowardice, and deceit. The father didn't die some heroic death, he gulped and died. Crane is showing us that for the average soldier, death is often just agonizing and completely meaningless.
Finally, the speaker turns to the mother. And look at this description. Her heart hung humble as a button. Her immense, life-shattering grief is reduced to something small, something you can just fasten and ignore, which is exactly how she's expected to behave. Now, to really hammer this point home, Crane uses another really powerful literary tool, the oxymoron. This is where you jam two words together that completely contradict each other, and it creates this startling new meaning.
And here is a perfect example. Splendid shroud. A shroud is a burial cloth. So how can something associated with death be splendid? Crane is basically asking, can a fancy funeral, a splendid flag on a coffin, can that really cover up the brutal reality of losing a son? And the answer, of course, is no. It's just another lie meant to hide the pain. Okay, so about halfway through, the poem totally pivots. We're moving away from the grieving families left behind, and now we're looking directly at the soldiers themselves, the raw material for this brutal war machine.
This line is just chilling. Crane doesn't describe the soldiers as individuals with hopes and dreams. No, he presents them as products, basically manufactured for a single purpose, to drill and to die. They're completely dehumanized, like robots programmed for their own destruction.
Crane even calls them little souls, which really emphasizes how young and innocent they are. So you have to wonder, what on earth could convince these young men to march straight toward an almost certain death?
Well, the answer, according to Crane, is something he calls unexplained glory. And notice that word, unexplained. It's not real, earned glory. It's all the superficial stuff, the bright, blazing flags, the shiny eagle crests on the uniforms, all the patriotic speeches, and, of course, the medals you get for killing. It's all just a glittering trap.
And how are they trained to accept this? Well, through more of those brutal oxymorons. Soldiers are taught the virtue of slaughter and the excellence of killing. Think about that. Morality is turned completely upside down. Horrible acts are reframed as noble, valuable skills.
So, you take these little souls, you lure them in with promises of glory, and you teach them that slaughter is a virtue. And what's the result of all that? Well, Crane gives us a single, haunting number: 1,000.
1,000 corpses. That is the kingdom built by this great battle god. It's not victory, it's not honor, it's not a beautiful nation. It's a field littered with bodies. And he repeats this image, driving home the point that mass death is the only real product of war. So when you put it all together, Crane's message is crystal clear. He's arguing with every single line that war is the exact opposite of kind. It's a pointless, futile machine that just eats up lives and leaves nothing but pain and grief in its wake for absolutely everyone involved.
You see, Crane uses irony not just to be clever, but to force us, the readers, to confront the uncomfortable truth that he saw with his own eyes. His poem is a challenge that still echoes today. He's demanding that we look past the flags and the slogans and see the grim reality underneath. So the final question really isn't what the poem says, but what do we choose to see?